What if I told you that by doing nothing, you silently agreed to let the banks, collectors, and even the government act on your behalf? In this video, I'm going to expose how the system assumes you granted power of attorney, how that affects your debt, and how revoking it may be the key to regaining control and discharging claims. Now, I've studied contract law, agency law, and debt discharge processes, and I'm here to show you how to stop the silent agreements ruining your financial life. Now, before we dive into this video, remember to hit the like button. Remember to hit the subscribe button. You dig what I'm saying? We want to be at the top of the algorithm so people can see this type of content, okay? Also, this is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. Do your due diligence. Do not employ any of these strategies without doing your own research. What we're going to be talking about is the process of revoking that power of attorney. And most people don't know that banks, companies, organizations, they have a power that essentially puts them in a position to control you, to control your finances, to have that obligation to be able to maneuver in and out of your trust. So what we're going to be talking about is what is the power of attorney, why people are talking about revoking it, and what does it mean for the debt discharge process. So make sure you stick around all the way to the end, because we're going to be dropping some bangers, some key information that they won't talk about. All right. So what is a presumed power of attorney? Okay. When you don't speak up, the system operates on presumed consent. So when you sign your loan agreements, when you contract with a bank, when you contract with a company, especially when it's a consumer credit contract, not only do they become a fiduciary and have a fiduciary obligation to you, but they also get the power to move on your behalf. And a lot of times we unknowingly accept that, okay? And the reason why is because we don't necessarily opt out, all right? It's just that plain and simple. So agencies, banks, collectors often act as if they have authority to represent or bind you, okay? When you go to a dealership, that's one of the things that you sign. You give them the power of attorney in order to submit your documents to the bank, okay? Then after that, that power of attorney gets transitioned to the bank. And then on the other aspect, when you get a credit card, when you get any other type of loan, they also become a power of attorney as well. And that all caps name that we talked about, we talked about the straw man a couple videos ago, is treated like it gave power to these entities. So most people don't know that you never knowingly agreed. You just signed the agreement thinking that you're signing to get the loan, but it's more to these contracts than that meets the eye, I should say, okay? But that's the issue. Non-disclosure, putting you in a position to where you don't even know what's fully going on. And that alone kind of violates contract law within itself, okay? I also want you to know that silence in law is often treated as consent, and that's how they claim jurisdiction over you. This is why it's important for you to understand the administrative process, understand the written communication between you and the debt collector or you and any company, because when you don't respond to them or you don't even have any type of rebuttal, then whatever is presumed can be presumed, if that makes sense, okay? So why the power of attorney affects debt? Debt collection is based on a commercial contract and agency relationships. So by not revoking this presumption, they act on your behalf on the aspect of accepting debts in your name, saying, okay, this straw man is the debtor, initiating court actions, and assigning collection rights. So they'll do things like assign your debt to another company or even sell off your debt without your consent or without you even knowing, okay? Even the aspect of them securitizing it is the reason why they're able to securitize it is because they are your power of attorney. Because think about it. If you went and you tried to, get into your mom's account, you know what I mean? Get into your friend's account. And trust me, I know this because I'm in the credit industry and I deal with clients all the time and speak on behalf of clients. You can't speak for them, even for as simple as something dealing with credit, okay? So someone having a power of attorney over you, I mean, obviously if it's a power of attorney that you know, customize specific to your situation and you know exactly what powers they have, but they are creating that power of attorney for you. You don't even know what they have the power to do. Okay. So in that power of attorney, it can undermine your ability to object, dispute, or even discharge. And this is why it's important for you to understand that we cannot give them the presumed consent. Okay. If someone else holds the pen, how can you claim the contract was never valid? Okay. So this is what they do. They claim that power of attorney. And when they claim that power of attorney, they can do things like go in and out of your trust. They can do things like, you know, speak on your behalf in the courtroom, right? Unless you know exactly what it is that they are, you know, contracted to do and what type of powers they have, they can have an even deeper level of power. Okay. So what we're going to talk about is a couple of laws that essentially back up and protect your rights to revoke. The laws that protect your rights, UCC 1-103, which is common law and equity. And essentially it talks in about how it goes hand in hand with the UCC, okay? UCC 1-103 dictates that unless the Uniform Commercial Code explicitly displaces them, common law principles and principles of equity apply to supplement the UCC provision in commercial transactions. So unless the UCC says, hey, you know, things like principal, agent, estoppel, fraud, misrepresentation, duress, coercion, mistake, bankruptcy, and other validating or invalidating cause, unless it doesn't take these things out, depending on the regulation, then common law and equity applies. And when you think of equity, think of both fairness. Think of fairness, okay? Then we dive into UCC 3-401, which talks about the signature. The signature is only valid if it is authorized. So it had to come from an authorized officer, which is you. And you essentially would, your signature creates an obligation, okay? If you sign something, right, then that's when you quote unquote give consent. But if you did it based on, you know, without that legal capacity, then technically it's not authorized. Okay. This is another important one, the restatement of agency, the third excerpts, which pretty much breaks down the consent being key to all agency relationships. Agency is a fiduciary relationship that arises when one person manifests assent to another person. That agent shall act on the principal's behalf and subject to the principal's control, and agents manifest assent or otherwise consent so to act. Okay. So there must be a true consent, okay? Restatement of agency, third excerpts, all right? Then we dive into federal POA laws. You can revoke at any time with proper notice. And the federal POA laws specifically related to the IRS representation are primarily governed by irs.gov. These laws allows individuals to authorize someone to represent them. We can say the IRS, we can say debt collection and tax matters, all right? But long story short, because of the federal power of attorney laws, you can revoke it at any point in time. And then the other thing that will protect you is if you write an affidavit of revocation of power of attorney. Okay. This establishes a record of non-consent. And obviously, I mean, I'm just showing you this so that you can see that you can go online. Now, I do have my own, you know, document and a complete debt guide that is fully uploaded and how to properly use this. But again, you can go online and find this and write your own. Okay. So I want you to understand that revocation is not a rebellion. It's lawful correction of assumption. And that's the thing. We don't want them to assume anymore that they have power over us. Okay. And the only way that you can keep them from assuming that is if you write the paperwork that essentially says you don't consent. All right. Even when you understand the aspect of communicating with police officers and things in that nature, the reason why there are so many videos out there, people saying I do not consent, this, that, and the third, because just that right there alone, it stops them in their tracks because now they have to ask for consent. If you knowingly say you do not consent, then they have to honor it. Okay. And this is why they're able to do things like repossess your vehicle and do things that are unlawful, because technically they have and hold the power to maneuver on your behalf. So sometimes it's not that they're repossessing the vehicle because they truly have security interests and they own the vehicle, but because they have that power of attorney where they can, maneuver on your behalf without your consent. Okay. And this is a lot of times just written in a contract. And, this is why half of the things that they do, they're able to do because they technically have that power to do it on your behalf. Even the 1099s, they have the power to file a 1099 on your behalf because they probably have a power of attorney, or they probably have the power of an attorney. Okay. Now let's just talk about how to revoke presumed power over attorney. Okay. Number one, create an affidavit of revocation of power of attorney. Okay, so this is what I am talking about. Obviously, you can just look this up online. You dig what I'm saying? But long story short, if I can pull one up. Okay, I would just come here and just look it up. But it's essentially saying that you revoke that power of attorney. You're going to put whoever is the agent. You're going to put who is the new power of attorney, or whatever the case may be. Some of them are different, but you can come here and you can literally search up how to create one, and you'll be able to create one. Okay. You want to include your name. You want to include the all caps name. You want to make clear that you're a living man or woman. And you want to make sure to send copies to the credit bureaus. You want to send copies to the debt collectors, to the creditors, to the courts involved in the case. And I typically don't tell people to stop at, I typically don't tell people to just stop at, sending it to the debt collector. Send it to all the parties involved, okay? Because all of them have a hand in your demise, if that makes sense. Your mental slavery, in a sense, okay? You also want to send to the IRS or the SSA if public funds are involved, okay? Now, after you do that, you want to record a document publicly or keep it in your administrative record. So you want to keep that power of attorney. So if anytime somebody maneuvers without your consent, you can just say that you revoked their power of attorney. So technically they have to go through you and get your consent every time. Even if you have my SSN, you cannot do it unless, and if you do use my SSN without my knowledge and try to pretend you are me, that is considered fraud. Okay? And then you want to reference your revocation of power of attorney in all your documents, okay? So this is something that you can include in your debt validation process, include in your packages. You can include this in your documentary evidence to the debt collector or to the creditor, okay? So that they can stop assuming or presuming assent. Because once you revoke, they no longer have standing to speak or act on your behalf. And they're able to do a lot of things because they are acting on your behalf. Okay? Why this ties to discharge. If they are claiming that you owe through an artificial relationship, they're revoking that power weakens their claim. The thing is, because it's this automatic presumed assent, all right, and they are acting attorney, whatever the case may be, there's a lot of things that they'll say, oh yeah, the debtor accepted it, but that's not always the case. Okay? So it's easier for them to presume the claims towards you. Okay? When you do this, you can then demand proof of authority, things like the original wet ink signature, and true verified claims. Okay? Without agency, their whole process become legally questionable because they're going to have to literally ask you for every single detail, every single thing. Okay, so discharge essentially starts with cutting off their false authority. So being in a position of where now they can't move without your consent. They now they are losing legal standing. They don't have the upper hand on you. Okay, they cannot presume consent now, even though they still may. You have evidence to back you up if they try to do something about it. And once they kind of lose that power, and it's not just the power of attorney that they lose, once they lose the ability to control your finances, control your mental state, control your time, labor, and attention, your energy, anybody will lose that power, okay? Imagine having full control of someone and they immediately take that away. It can start by revoking that power of attorney. Now, I'm not saying that this right here is going to discharge all debts, remove the obligations to pay a debt, or whatever the case may be, but it is a key piece that you can add to your process in order to make it much stronger, okay? In order for just the small things as presuming consent can be overcame, okay? So you were never meant to be a silent puppet in a commercial game. The moment you revoke their fake authority, you reclaim your voice, your name, and your rights. That's the whole thing about this. This is why I talk about debt discharge, is to put you in a position of where you are reclaiming your power. You are reclaiming your energy. I think a lot of times people are stuck in the system where they feel like they can't get ahead in life. And, you know, it's not just because like your debt, they're just taking advantage of you or whatever the case may be, but we don't like to think outside the box, okay? We don't like to think for ourselves. And these documents, these processes have already been around, but we haven't taken action because we've just been preconditioned to listen to what other people say. If the bank says that we owe them, then we'll follow what the bank says. Why? Because they're some big corporation. But what if I told you that you can be the bank? What if I told you if you start treating the bank like they are a business partner instead of someone that is above you, that is loaning you money, you will start to exercise these actions. Because imagine if you had a business partner that did fraudulent things like the banks do to you. You will probably cut that person off. You will probably hold that person accountable, okay? And you wouldn't be afraid to. You dig what I'm saying? So this is a quick video. I wanted to talk about the power of attorney. Because I feel like there was a lot of questions about it, but also at the same time, this is something that can be used in the process to be able to enhance the process. If you want to learn how to use the power of attorney to revoke access, okay? I have a power of attorney revocation kit, template letters in the complete debt guide. If you want to grab it there, you can also go online and get it for free. You can also use it as a tool to write your own. My whole thing is, even after this video, do your due diligence, okay? One said, okay, well, you know, you make these videos and never show proof. But it's like, you know, proof can come in many different ways, okay? It can come in a settlement. It can come in it being charged off in your credit report. It can come in, you know, it being removed off your credit report. It can come in them literally changing the numbers in your account. But the reality is that it's not about the proof. It's not about, you know, me showing you that it's about you understanding and understanding the law so that you can take action. The proof is in the law. Dig what I'm saying? If I show you an example and you get excited, you know what I mean? It was nothing in this video, even just like the premise of this video is just a piece of the debt discharge process. Okay, I have plenty of videos where I break down the entire process. One still wouldn't take action. They'll come to this video because they get excited about power of attorney. They get on there, they listen, and boom, that just affirms that, okay, power of attorney works. But no, this is only a piece of it. So if you get all the way this far, make sure to comment the word discharge so that I know that you watched this video. You still got to take them through the administrative process. You still have to communicate with them through written form, okay? Just sending them a power of attorney is not going to remove the obligation, okay? It's just going to give you a little bit more power, okay? But you still have to know how to communicate with debt collectors. You still got to know the conditional acceptance process. Still got to know debt validation. Still got to know how to shift the burden of proof onto them. Because if you know how to shift the burden of proof onto them, you know how to challenge them directly, then you'll be in an even better position to where it's not even about you filling out a 1099 or whatever the case may be, negotiable instrument, creating a bill of exchange. You won't even have to do that. I would typically tell people to just learn the laws themselves. Once you learn the laws themselves, you just hold them to those laws. You don't have to convince them. You don't even have to ask them for permission. Okay? So go ahead down below. Links will be in the description if you want to learn more about this and to complete that guide. Number 2, if you want to work with me one-on-one, no, I don't discharge debt in my one-on-one mentorship. So when you go through the application process, you probably, if you're looking to do that, you probably are not going to get all the way through, okay? Number 3, if you're looking to fix your credit, get funding, tap in with that one-on-one mentorship, okay? Lastly, tap in with my Instagram at biz.nick. Tap in with my Twitch at biz_nick and tap into the Discord. It's the first link in the description. You dig what I'm saying? If you are serious about knowledge, if you're serious about being in the environment, tap into these communities so that you can constantly get this gain, so that you have an understanding. It goes hand in hand with my YouTube videos, and you're not in the dark. This is something that'll stick with you for a lifetime. So take it serious now while you can. Okay? My last question is, have you ever signed something you didn't understand or felt like it was someone else who was making moves in your name? This was the reason. That power of attorney. If you put in that power of attorney, they can't even fill out a 1099 legally on your behalf. Okay? So thank you guys for watching this video. Once again, remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure to tap in and turn on the post notifications so that you get an update every time I post a video. I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Comment the word discharge, and I'll see you in the next one.